get you overhead.
Yeah, he's not in Saturdays.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun to do something here. Do you guys have your kits, your flight kits? You do? Yes. Okay. Make sure you get your Seattle sectionals out. So you don't have to open them up yet. Just get them out, and then go through. And then also your E6Bs. We're going to go over E6B usage and your flight movement. It's right here. We're going to need all those things. And we're flying through this thing. So we're going through a lot of stuff, a lot of material today. So, I don't. Did you not get one?
I did get one. I had it streamed it.
Okay, all right.
Nothing in the other room.
What's that?
Nothing in the other room.
We got there's another meeting in here, and they didn't reset everything up. So I know. How you doing, Donnie?
Good.
Good. I'll try, and maybe if some of you could have a couple people sit up here too. I got so. Alan, how you doing? Good. You could sit up here too if you guys have got 3 seats here. If you want.
Got your photo on back.
Okay, all right, sounds good, sir.
Yeah, just let me know if you want to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get a hold of me. It's so this week we're delivering the simulator to Fox. I'm probably gonna fly up there on Thursday, so to drop it off. They were so excited. You should see Janesville. Oh my gosh, they had the whole classroom sitting around the simulator, and they were like, there was students that were flying it, and the one was coaching and stuff like that. And he is so excited. Wyomega, that's the big news. So Wyomega actually wants 5 more simulators. 5? Yeah, they're going to actually have an aviation class. I'm going to get a hold of Oshkosh or EAA and see if we can actually get an article about it, because that would be a great, centerpiece for SIA. I think, just saying that we've got aviation in school now. They want 6 total, and then they're going to pair up while they fly the simulators. So what we're going to do is we can't afford to give them another 5 simulators, but I told them, I said, we can probably give you 1 more simulator, and then we can give you the rest of the little arc. So just, it's going to cost us, but it's we can do with it. So,
Mike's still working on that. Mike's still working on that.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. You did the course EAA. They wanted him to bring his seminar up there.
Yeah.
And then because they got like 5 or 6 Redbirds.
Oh yeah, they got a ton of, and then they're full motion too.
Right.
Yeah.
They just got told not that long ago. Apparently it was somebody you would reach them.
Yeah.
And he said there may be an opportunity there to talk to them about that. It's up to the chunk.
Really?
So he's going to try to.
I didn't think they were going to do that. Yeah, I mean, we never approached them on funding at all. But, I know that the girls up there that are running the Aero Educates and the Education Center, they really want to help us out. They are so excited.
Yeah, fortunately, that's his plan, is that he's talking with that guy up there, and he said that we should know in a week to 10 days if they're going to be doing a seminar up there. If they are, then the next step is approaching.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Just our couples.
Yeah, we need a ton of talks. There's so many other things I got to show you too. And you got to stop in and take a look at the latest things. So we've got added a bunch more.
I'll get to quite a bit. I'm still fixing my seat. So.
Oh, yeah. So, we'll talk later, Brad. Take care. All right, guys. How's everybody doing? Good. Anybody have any questions from last week at all?
So today we're using it's like the actually not playing E6B. Right?
What's that?
E6B.
E6B and your ruler. So you're going to want to get these 2 things out, and your sectional. You have the sectional. I'll make sure you get that. So this is your E6B and your flight plotter right here. You want to make sure you've got those. And the other thing you'll need is your Seattle sectional. So. Yeah, go ahead. Yep. Morning, Trey. How you doing? We're kind of tight here, so I don't know if you can. Yeah. Actually, we have to, sorry, there. Get this, we'll get as much space as possible.
That's okay.
I can pull out one of the tables for this. So,
If we get any more, we're probably gonna have to. Thinking it'd be nice, actually, let's do that. Let's just grab another table and that way, we can use that for, I can use that, 'cause we're gonna need a table to set the, sectionals on. I don't think we're gonna have enough room here. Thank you. Appreciate it. Oops. Yeah, I get it. Yes, that one. Yeah, that's not going anywhere. All right, so we are on.
Chairs too or no?
No, don't worry about chairs because you can just stand up. It's gonna be easier for everybody to stand up and use those. So. All right, guys, this is our last session. We're gonna be flying through a bunch of stuff. Pardon my fun, the fun there. So we're on 14-16. And I think the only thing we didn't talk about was the lights, airport lighting.
so we talked about that.
We did talk about runway lights and stuff like that. So, hey, Gabe, how you doing? Yeah, I know we're kind of tight here. So, if you want, why don't you grab a chair and sit? You can go over there. Yep. Okay. So, airport beacons. You guys, okay, first off, what color lights are taxiway lights? Wait, no. What are the colors? Green. Taxiway lights are blue. What about runway lights? White. White. The lights are white. Yep. Let's see. Okay, airport beacons. So that there's really three types of beacons. There's flashing white and green. It's like every 3 seconds. Basically, it's a beacon that rotates around. That's for civilian land airports. White and yellow are for water, like amphibious aircraft or water aircraft. Flashing white, yellow, and green are for heliports. And basically, what it is, you just have this beacon that just rotates around. It's got flashes. I think I mentioned to you before, you can see like a Baraboo's beacon from at least 40 miles away on a clear night. They're very bright and they're designed to help you identify it. So 2 quick white flashes with an alternating green flash, that's a military airport. Obviously, you want to avoid those. You don't want to land there, otherwise you may get in trouble. We talked a little bit about VASIs last week on the approach, what it looks like here. So I think I showed you some images of the plane on approach. Did I last time?
Yeah.
Did I show you that? Okay. Yeah, I think we did. We went on this slope. Does everybody remember? If there's any questions on this at all? The white indicates you're too high on your glide slope. So like this, you got two red on this side. This is another type of approach slope indicator right here. This would be red and then white. Actually, go down here further. So again, I think this right here, you can see this is a 4-bar VASI right here. So or a PAVI that is precision approach slope indicator. And you see those 4 little lights there. They're all white. That indicates that this aircraft is high on their approach slope. So if I go down to the next one, that one's high, and then this one should be. That one is low. See, there's 4 red lights there. Can you kind of see that there? Yep. And that's very low. So what you want to do, the idea here is to keep these lights always 2 white on the left and then 2 white on the red on the right. That means you're right on the approach slope. If you get down too low, you're going to see 4 red lights. If you get too high, you're going to show 4 white lights. And you don't know how much higher you are when you hit the 4th white light. You don't know if you're like pointing down like this at the airport or if you're just slightly above it. Whereas with if you see 3 white lights, you're slightly high of the path, the approach path there. Okay, so those are the common types of airport lighting you're going to see. All right, let's dive into airspace. So there's several different types of airspace. In the U.S., classifications are, this is They even have, yeah, they do. It's chapter 15. So in airspace, there's A, B, C, D, E, and then there's G. Now everybody asks, where is F? We don't have F in the United States. So keep in mind that these classifications are worldwide. They're used everywhere. So in some countries, they have what they call F airspace. We don't have to worry about it because we don't have that. We've got a really good system, and because of our system, there's no need for a class F airspace. So what are the different classifications? So class A is starts at, and this is the stuff you have to know for the test. You'll have to review this before you take the written test to make sure you totally understand it. But class A is everything above 18,000 MSL. Okay, so it's above sea level, and it's including 18,000 feet and higher. Essentially, what that is. And then below that, we have different types of airspace. The vast majority of airspace is what we call Class E or Class Echo. So this is Class Alpha or Class A. Class E is, just basically it's all the airspace that ATC essentially can see and use for, with the radars, they can see aircraft that are in this airspace. So and then you have Class C, D airspace, which is going to be like Howard Airport. It's, hi Chelsea, how you doing? There's a chair over there if you want to grab a seat next to the over there. You've got Class D or Class Delta airspace, and notice down here, this is the representation of an airport runways there. You can kind of see it there. Runway right here. So Class D airspace or Class Delta, that's going to be like the La Crosse's, Janesville's Class D airspace, where they actually have somebody at a control tower talking to traffic as they come. They don't have a radar facility per se, but they do. They've got binoculars. Nowadays, they use what's called ADS-B to view all this stuff and see what's going on there. So, hey Logan, how you doing? Just once you grab this chair right in front of us, and trade you right up there. So again, Class D is again the smaller controlled airports. Now Reedsburg is not control tower, so we're actually in what's called Class G airspace. Baraboo is Class G, Portage is Class G airspace, or Gulf airspace. So that's uncontrolled airspace. So think of controlled and versus uncontrolled as controlled is airspace where somebody would talk to you from ATC, air traffic control. It could be a radar controller at Madison. It could be a center controller in Chicago that's talking to you, routing you through the airspace or something like that. But the whole idea there is that with controlled airspace, in Class A, Class E, B, C, D, and G, or I'm sorry, and that's it. Yeah, they're all in essentially controlled airspace. So that's the reason why we have that is so for number one, for safety. They want to keep aircraft separate. Especially in the clouds. If you have foggy conditions or cloudy conditions throughout a large geographic area, ATC needs to know where all these aircraft are so they can funnel them safely into places like Chicago or Milwaukee or whatever it may be. So Class D airspace, again, La Crosse, there's going to be a Class D airspace, Janesville, central Wisconsin. There's a bunch of them that are in the area. Class C airspace is going to be the larger airports. They're going to be a little bit larger. So Janesville is a pretty good sized city. Madison's larger. Okay, Madison's a Class C airport. Okay, the differences between Class C and Class D. Class C, you'll notice that this airspace right here, it's got the lower tier right here, but now it has an upper tier, and that's because Class C airspace typically does have a radar facility. If you ever go down to Madison before you go to take off someplace, when you come down and it gets on CD there, you'll see the radar assembly on the hill just north of the airport. You'll see it swinging around. That's for the Madison air traffic controllers, so they can get their aircraft in. So And then, when the tower, they still have a tower controller down there that talks to aircraft once they get within the traffic area here in Madison, and then they'll talk down from there. Class Bravo airspace, because anybody guess what that is? Chicago, O'Hare, Atlanta, yep, all the really big airports where you've got, Minneapolis, where you've got, literally hundreds of planes coming in to land. Like Minneapolis, you've got, what is it, Northwest is based up there. Is it United that's based in Chicago? They base all their planes there, so they've got all this traffic flowing in. They have to have really good communications with the aircraft. So because of that, the Bravo, and think of Bravo as busy. That's the memory mnemonic to use for that, busy airspace. It's much higher. It extends up to around 10,000 feet, whereas typically Class C airspace is only extended maybe like it's about 3,000 feet. Class Delta is maybe 1,000 feet or so. I don't know. So again, Class B Bravo, think of busy airports. And then you've got the Class G airports, like Baraboo, Reedsburg, Portage, Sauk. They're all Class G. And I don't know, do you guys kind of understand this diagram, how this works? What's on here? You've got ground level here, you've got 18,000 feet up here, and then you've got Class A. As private pilots, without an instrument rating, if you don't have an instrument rating, or you have no need for flying up here, you're never going to go up to 18,000 feet. You have to have an IFR, instrument rating to fly in Class Alpha airspace. Okay, you can't just go up there with your plane. You have to have an instrument rating, and your aircraft has to be equipped with instrument equipment, the right kind of gauges and stuff like that out there. So let's see here. Right. So there's a couple things that I should show you here. So in Class G, typically it extends up to around 700 to 1,200 feet. At Baraboo and Reedsburg, it's 700 feet that it extends up to. And you can see here, they even have the dimensions here. Now that's AGL, okay? That's 700 feet from the surface. Like if you measure 700 feet up from the level where the runway is, all the way up. That's the beginning then of Class Echo airspace. So let's back up a little bit here. Again, let's take a look at the big picture here. So all of this airspace up here, B, C, D, and Echo, that's going to be airspace that is controlled. Okay, so that ATC can talk to you. They don't always have to talk to you. They have to talk to you in Class Delta, Charlie, and Bravo. They don't necessarily have to talk with you in Class Echo as long as whether you've got decent flight conditions and you can fly VFR, visual flight as that is in Class Echo. But if it's cloudy, then at Class Echo, then you have to talk to ATC. Okay. Any questions on all that? It gets kind of confusing. Again, you definitely need to understand this. Let's talk about some of the requirements that you're going to have. So it's I'll just show you a couple of things. Here's a they call it an upside down flight. Is what it looks like. This is Class Bravo airspace. This would be like Chicago, Atlanta. Milwaukee is actually. Does anybody know what Milwaukee is? It's C. Yeah, C. It's not as large as Chicago. But it's busy. It's definitely busier than Madison. I'll tell you that. If you fly in Milwaukee, they are very busy there. So, but the Chicago is, that's busy. The Class B airports are going to be some of the busiest airports in the U.S. Or anywhere in the world, that is. Class Delta airspace, extends up to about 2,500 feet over here. So you have just an operating control tower. Let's back up here. It's Class C airspace. Okay, so normally up to 4,000 feet AGL. The upper ring right here is called the outer area right there, and it extends 10 miles out and up to 4,000 feet. The surface area in this case extends out 5 nautical miles, and it's up to 1,200 feet. Again, the way they show these diagrams on here, it makes it look like the plane comes in at a super steep angle to land. But when you actually lay it out, it's it actually, it's enough for ATC to vector an aircraft in very shallow, with a very shallow approach angle there. So again, the whole idea here is to provide like a definition for pilots of what these areas look like. If they're like Wanakee is actually located just under Class Charlie airspace in Madison. If you look at it, you'll actually see it's just actually right on the edge, and it's just below the surface area. So this under here, can anybody guess what this airspace is right here? G. Yes, G. Right. Unless the overlying airspace is, maybe there's another airspace, like down around Chicago, you may have Class C airspace co-located with Class Bravo airspace. But like in areas like here, it's like Madison, Milwaukee, it's going to be Gulf. Class Delta airspace, again, control tower. So different types of designations, like if you open up your sectional chart. So let me show you something once on the sectional charts. So if you look at the front of your chart, so you should have the Seattle sectional. If you look at the front of it, at the very top, there is it says south and north on there. If you want to open up the south side or the north side, you do it like this. So I'm looking at the north. I'm going to put my finger right there. I want to open up to the north side of this. Well, first off, look at the sectional. There's a little shaded area there. You see that right there? See that? That's the. Does everybody have one of these, by the way? So the shaded area is the sectional, the area that this sectional covers. That's what you're looking at. Okay. So if I want to open it up to the north half of that sectional side, so I want to look up where Seattle is right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my finger on the north side, flip it up like this, and then open it like that. Now we're going to open it up to the north side of that section, as opposed to the south side. Now you see, if I hold it like this, if I hold my sectional like this, and I put my finger on south, see how south is upside down there? If you look on your chart, you'll see that south is upside down. The word south is. So what you want to do there is turn it upside down so that you can read south right side up like this. And then if you open it up, now we're opening up the south side of the runway, and we're looking at it right. It's a minor thing, but I've seen pilots that have a lot of experience fumble with these charts. And it's not a problem in here, but when you're in the plane and you're trying to figure out where you're at and you need to open up a sectional, you should be able to open it up right away. So let's open up to, see if you can find Seattle Airport. This is what you will actually, I'll put it on the screen here so you can see it. Okay. This is what you should see on your section, something similar to this right here. That's Seattle. And you'll see a lot of yellow there. That's those are populated areas there. And actually, incidentally, sectional, those yellow areas are what is lighted at night. So if you're flying at night, you're looking for these patterns. Identify a city or something like that. You can see some smaller towns that are yellow as well. This is essentially what you should have. You don't have to open up your sectional all the way if you don't want to. Just basically up to Seattle, which is like right here. Right. And if we look at that, there's a couple of different things. Seattle's got some pretty complex Class Bravo airspace. So obviously Seattle's, Bravo airspace, very busy airport. There's a couple things that I want to draw your attention to. So normally Class Bravo airspace is an inverted, series. It looks like an inverted wedding cake. In the case of Seattle, just by virtue of the fact that they're surrounded by mountains and there's some areas that they don't have to worry about, they actually modified the airspace. So these different lines represent different layers of their, eaten up, chewed up wedding cake. What you need to focus on is everybody have Seattle on their sectional there. Everybody see it? Yeah, okay. So take a look up here. You see this little number right here? It says 70, and then it's got a dash. Looks like 70 over 60. You see that there? Everybody looks. What's that? Exactly. So that for this particular segment of the Class Bravo airspace, it extends, the ceiling of it is 7,000 feet and the base of it is 6,000 feet. So I could fly under that legally, with a mode C transponder, which we'll get into in a second here. What about this right here? What does that represent?
7,000.
Yeah, so the ceiling is 7,000 feet there. Did you have yours? Can you see, you got it open there? Oh, you got it, okay, good. All right, so, and then notice how the lines here, these are blue lines, by the way. This color right here is called magenta. You'll hear me say magenta a lot. That's a magenta line. These are magenta lines over here. Magenta lines. So on these blue lines, though, they outline the Class Bravo airspace. And you can see this whole section right here is all one contiguous section right here. And it's all 7,000 foot ceiling, 5,000 foot base. So, and as we go in here, you can kind of get an idea. This right here, 6,000, and now it's dropping down to 5,000. Here, what's this right here?
10,000.
Yeah, 10,000 to 4,000. You have 10,000 foot ceiling, which is higher than the 7,000. So it actually steps up a little bit toward as it gets closer to Seattle here. And the base of that layer right there, this little chunk right here is 4,000 feet. And then as you get closer, these numbers are going to get lower because we want to control the aircraft going into that funnel into the airport. Class C airspace works the same way. It's just that it's, instead of, these complicated, diagrams, and this is about as complicated as airports get when it comes to Bravo airspace. They've got all these little tiny sections. So the question you're going to see on the test, guaranteed, I guarantee you're going to see it on the test. They're going to say, find this airport and tell me what the base of the Class, Bravo airspace is. So like right here, what's the base of the Class C, Class Bravo airspace that this airport is in? Anybody tell me what that would be?
So
10,000 to 2,000.
What is the base? So if I'm sitting at the airport and I'm looking up into Class Bravo airspace, where does Class Bravo space begin at this airport?
surface one. Okay.
1,000. 2,000.
Keep looking. Look at the section there. There's, what's that?
1,500.
No, it's the answer is right. It's one of those numbers I was just showing you. So if you look at, this is the airspace right here for this airport right here. What is the base level of the Class Bravo airspace at this airport is? See, okay, let's take a look at this. So you've got right here, here's the numbers right here we're looking for. 10,000 is the ceiling of Class Bravo. 3,000 is the base of Class Bravo. So the answer would be 3,000 feet. And you can see the thing that gets you there, it's hard to see, but there's a little blue line. Like I said, the reason why I'm doing this, you guys, because you are going to see this on the test. I can guarantee it. You'll get at least one question on this. And you have to be able to know, what, when you look at an airport, well, is it in Bravo airspace, or, what is the ceiling of Bravo airspace? So in this case, the ceiling for Bravo, or the base of Bravo airspace above this airport is 3,000 feet right there. You can see it's got that covers that whole area there. And what about this airport right here? Again, there's the sectionals are complicated things. They've got all kinds of stuff in there. It's kind of up to you to kind of decipher some things, like this blue line right here. Can you see this? So take a look at where the airport is. Any ideas? That's a tough one because it is really, let me zoom in a little closer there. So this airport it's almost on this line right here. So it's going to be one of two things. It's either going to be the Class Bravo, the base of Class Bravo is going to be either at 3,000 feet here or 5,000 feet. Okay. What's that? It's 3,000 feet. Yep. And then what about this airport right here? What's the base of Class Bravo airspace? 5,000. Got it. All right, good. What about this one right here?
6,000.
Yep, 6,000, right? And let's see here. Okay, how about this one right here? Yep, it's 5,000. Yep. So as long as does everybody see what's going on here? These sections, things like that. Again, this is a complex, airport or airspace. There are other ones that are a little easier to deal with. So, but I wanted you to see what that looks like. Let's see if we can find something else. Yes. Yeah, let's go north of Seattle here. You should be able to see it on your thing. Yeah, just a little north of Seattle. There is that.
It's next to Scoop Island.
Oh,
Yeah.
we'd be okay. That's actually that is a airport base, but it is it's a civic airport, so it's something that actually can be used. You can fly in and stuff like that. So this is a class or the type of class C airspace right here. Okay. So what is the base of class C airspace in this ring right here? 1,300. Yeah, to 4,000, correct. And then what about right here? What's the base of class?
Surface.
Yep, surface to 4,000, correct. All right. This one is a little bit hard to see. And again, you guys, sectionals are busy. There's a lot of information they present. They're going to show a lot of information out here. So the base here, obviously you can read it right there. You can see it 40 to 2,000 feet. Okay, so you got that. You guys, does everybody understand that? All right. Now let's take a look at class Delta airspace. Let's see. Okay. So this is a D class airport. The reason I know that is because it's the blue right here. Blue indicates that it's a controlled airport. There. This is Hoskins. It's just southwest of Seattle. So if you look a little more into your left of Seattle, you'll see it on the. And if you see, does everybody see it on there? And it's right here in the section there. This is Delta airspace, and the reason I know it's Delta is it's got a dashed blue line around it that signifies a Delta airspace airport, controlled airport. Okay, so this is a control tower. Now, what is the surface area? What is the base of Class D airspace there? It's a trick question. Surface. It's the surface. Yeah, it's the surface. There's no sense. They're not going to say, surface, because it's Class D airspace always extends to the surface. It's for a controlled airport. They don't have any other, outer shelf there for the Class C airspace. It's Class D. So what this little box right here represents is the ceiling of that, and that's an MSL. Okay, so it's going to be. It's not, again. That's not an AGL, which is above ground, unless measuring from above the ground. This is the sea level altitude that we could fly at to fly over that airport there. Okay. All right, so that's a D airport. So there is one other type of airport you might have come across, and it's going to be this right here. The distinction between these two, and if you look to the left of that airport, I think it was Olympia Regional. If you look to the left of it on your maps, you're going to see this Garmin airport. This had, instead of a blue dashed line, it's got a magenta dashed line. Do you see that there? Okay, so that's not a control. That's not. It doesn't have a control tower. What that means is that it becomes Class E airspace when the conditions are like IFR, or basically when you have instrument conditions. So if I'm flying here VFR conditions, it's just like Baraboo or Reedsburg flying into that. It's just a Class G airport. But under IFR conditions, this now becomes controlled. And usually you're going to have maybe Seattle, their radar probably reaches this. Maybe they've got a radar outlet somewhere around here, but they're going to control. They can see traffic flowing in and out of there, so it becomes controlled. It's still Class Echo airspace, it reverts to like a class G airspace when it's not in still condition. So the difference there, the way to distinguish between the two is this color is magenta right here, and here, and this one right here is blue. And notice the colors of the airports. This airport symbol is blue right here. This one is magenta. Okay, that tells you a lot. Whenever you see blue, it usually means it's more controlled. You just look at all these airports around Seattle here. Controlled, that's controlled airspace. You got a couple of magentas there, smaller airports. Obviously Seattle's blue, that's magenta. Here's another one, Renton. That's controlled airspace, so it's blue there. They've got a control tower there. Okay. Where is that at?
It's a little southwest of. It's like in the line with southwest. It's right through like the 5,000 area. Yeah.
It's right here.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a tower controlled airport. So if you look at it, and again, this is, the sectionals are busy. They can't show everything, but there is a blue line, dashed line around that airport. Do you see that there? Yep. It's hard to see. That's why the FAA likes to use, sometimes they'll use these as examples, because you have to kind of interpret what you're seeing there. Down here.
What does it mean by, there's like these dash purple rectangles saying Chinook female?
Military operations airspace.
Yeah.
Just not Seattle.
North of Seattle. Oh, yes. Yeah, we'll get into that. That's, yeah. Thank you, Gene. Yeah, Gene got it right. It's military. MOA stands for military operation area. So that's not restricted airspace. It is military airspace, and it's controlled. You can actually fly through it. You just have to be extra alert when you fly through VFR. IFR, they won't let you fly through it, because it's too difficult separating traffic for air traffic control. So we'll get into that in a second. Just so you know, all of the answers for all the tests are pretty much on the front of this sectional. You should be getting really comfortable looking at that legend and then finding all these things right here. The front of your sectional there, you're going to see all these symbols on there. Get comfortable reading that. You have to be able to look it up. Okay. That's something you'll be able to look up for the different areas or whatever. There's some symbols that I've never even seen on charts that are in that legend there. So, and you'll have access to this in the not this particular sectional, but you'll have access to this in the when you take the test. So the FAA does, believe it or not, they give you some cheats when you take the test. You just have to know where to go to look for that information there. So this, let me just show you this real quick. So this right here is the supplement that they're going to give you before you take the test, the written test. And they've got all kinds of diagrams in there. If you actually can download this through the Zero Echo website, the SIA.com website. It's called Airman Knowledge Testing Supplement. And its long name is, for Sport Pilot. But what you're looking for is Airman Knowledge Testing Supplement. The PDF for this, you can download it from the FAA website as well. But it's on the, what's that? Yes, get familiar with, download it, save it to your desktop, and before you take your test, make sure you are comfortable looking at this, because they're going to ask you questions that are in here. Like, for instance, let's see if I can find one here. Okay. So they give you all these sectionals in there. If you get comfortable with these sectionals before you go to the test, it's going to be that much easier for you to answer those questions. And that's not cheating. It's, they're in real life, you're going to have a sectional in front of you. You just have to know how to read it. So it'll save you some time going through and, knowing what these sectionals look like, and, what various things are, whatever. They've got weather maps in there, and, different symbols in there. So if you have questions on them, obviously you can get a hold of me, but there's all kinds of stuff. And again, that's freely available. It's off their website. You can download it. And it's more importantly, it's on the Zero Echo website. So you can download it on there. And again, save it someplace, or better yet, print it out on a color printer if you can. We would give these out, but they're really expensive, so we can't afford to hand them out. But like I said, you could just download the PDF and you're set to do that. So All right. Let's see what we have here. Here, all right. So there are, yeah. So this right here, this is a blue hatch or a blue dash line here. This is, you can see that it says P-4. You're not going to see this, I think. Well, actually, you do on page 15-2 on there. This is another type of airspace. We've got A, B, C, D, and G airspace. So if we go, you can actually close your sectors map for now if you want, just to give yourself a little more space.
Well, there is something.
Yeah, far away.
There is this purple dash line a little bit south of Whidbey Island saying,
Where's Whidbey Island in relation to Seattle?
north.
Okay.
And then it's R6701. It's a little bit southwest.
This right here?
And it says, notice, for reasons of national security, pilots are requested to avoid flight and flow. Like, what is that?
So that's actually a restricted area, and we're going to actually, we're just getting into that. So we'll save that, but you'll know, and this R, so like MOA indicates it's a military operations area. That's where like they do like up at Sparta Fort McCoy, they've got that gunnery range there. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I'm actually describing the different types of airspace that you're going to encounter there. So the MOA is stands for military operations area. R6701, that's R stands for restricted. Okay, and then there's also they have what's called P airspace, which is prohibited. So restricted, there may, ATC may let you fly through there if you're talking to them. Let's say you want to fly up here, but there's nothing going on in this airspace. They actually may let you fly right through that. So in Wisconsin, we've got a couple of areas here. We've got a huge military operations area. And we might actually just be in it right here at Reedsburg, if not, where it's just north of us. We've got Volk Field there north of us here. We've got traffic that flies in and out, military traffic that flies in there. But they also do aerial maneuvering. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that. Some flag, like flag or something like that. What was it? They have some like 2-week event in the summer months. And there'll be jets flying from all over the world. They come up here and they actually do, various types of, maneuvering and stuff. Did you see it? Oh, is that right? Sweet, that would be cool. I'd love to do a class trip up there someday. That'd be awesome. But yeah, they fly in there. They practice dogfighting. They also practice strafing on the ground. Up in by Sparta, they've got a gunnery range there. And that's restricted airspace. They don't want pilots just straying in there because you could have, I'm flying along like this, and this is their gunnery range right here. The jets come in and they'll just, chew up the ground and take off. And if you happen to fly in there, you're cannon fodder, essentially. So they want, obviously, if you see that, that area, that hatched line, that blue hatched line is in your flight path, you're going to have to avoid it. Okay. Now you can talk to the controlling agency. It could be Volk Field in this case, but maybe Seattle which controls that. You could ask them if it's okay to fly through it, and they may say, yeah, it's fine for this restricted airspace. And military operation area, again, VFR, it's totally fine to fly through a military operations area. You just have to be extremely vigilant. Most pilots don't even fly through that area, but they're, in Wisconsin news, we've got so many MOAs. It really makes it difficult to get around Wisconsin. In fact, several airports are located under the MOA. I mean, a lot of them are. So you have to, you actually have to penetrate that airspace to get to those airports. So this right here, again, another MOA right here. It's just in a circle format right there. Again, it's the magenta hash line there. And then this is the prohibited is the blue. All right, so let's see here. All right, so again, P, again, notice that, remember I said about blue and magenta. Blue is more controlled. Well, this is P40. This is actually, I think, Camp David, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's Camp David right here. But it says P, that's prohibited. So no traffic there anytime. They don't want anybody flying there. So, and there's no ceiling here or anything like that. It's basically goes up to space. You know, you can't penetrate that airspace at all with a plane. You can fly around it, but you fly into it and you're in hot water. So let's take a look at what it looks like on a map. So this right here is restricted airspace. And again, it's probably a gunnery range, or maybe they drop bombs or something like that. It's restricted, so it's got an R in front of it. They always have some sort of a letter specifier, and then they have a number, and that tells you the type of airspace. In this case, it's R4401, and it could be either R44A. Oh, I guess it's a combination of both. I guess R4101 A and B. So it's probably just a merge of two different airspaces. But again, this right here denotes the restricted area. But what about this right here? What area is this? Yeah, it's an MOA. Yeah, so it's got the magenta hatching there, and it extends inline. So the way that works is there's a sound line, and then inside the sound line is pointing into where the airspace is. In this case, the restricted airspace is in this area. It's not outside that area. So, and same with the military operation area. Again, it's the hatching points in toward where the area is. So we get a little confused with that. So some of these MOAs can get massive. So like here's one that's a huge MOA right here. And again, there's just a lot of military traffic flying. Maybe they could be doing training, or they can do all kinds of stuff. Out here we've got this is a warning area, so it's a W, starts with a W. So again, it's blue, so we know it's probably very well controlled. Can't just fly in it. Whereas the MOA can fly in as long as it's VFR conditions. Okay. Any questions so far? Right. MOA again, several chunks of MOAs here. This is Pine Hill East MOA. This is Pine Hill West MOA. Again, they're both military operations areas. Here, and again, just examples of various restricted areas, things like that. So again, restricted area you can't just fly into. You have to either call somebody up and see if you can get permission to fly into it. I think most of the time they won't let you in it, but there are times where there's just nothing going on. Like at the bombing ranges that they have here in Wisconsin, there's two of them. I think at least two of them. They just don't have. There are times where there's just nothing going on there, and they'll just allow traffic to fly through there if you ask ATC. So another type of airspace you might come across here, this right here is a military training route. It's actually an IFR training route for traffic, and that's kind of a gray IR. It's a military training route, and then this is the number for it there. And you can see here it extends off this map right here, but you can see this line going up here that designates the route. So that's military, and that's where you just need to be vigilant. You can still fly through that, but you need to be aware that there is military traffic there. Okay. All right. So now we're kind of jumping back to the ABCs of the airspace here. So there are certain minimums that you'd have to fly, like weather minimums. You have to fly, be able to fly in these different types of airspace. And again, this is something, again, you have to commit to memory. There's no simple way of teaching this. I know there's a ton of methods on how to like memory mnemonics about how to remember this stuff. I've seen some pretty good ones. There's a pyramid one, but the bottom line is you just have to know this stuff. You have to know what these mean. So let's break it down. So again, we're talking in terms of a VFR pilot. You're going to get your private pilot's license. What are the requirements you have? In this case, what are the requirements to enter Class A airspace? Well, you can't. As a VFR pilot, you can't fly in, legally you can't fly in Class A airspace, so it's not applicable on here. Class Bravo airspace, the flight visibility has to be 3 statute miles. That's statute, not nautical miles. And distance from the clouds, you have to just be clear of clouds. Okay. And again, that's something you have to know. I'll give you one of my little memory mnemonics, I guess. And again, there's a bunch of them that are out there. So for Class Bravo airspace, so Bravo right here, Bravo airspace, you have to have 3 COCs. That's your memory mnemonic, or 3 COC, which stands for clear of clouds. Okay, 3 miles and clear of clouds. So just remember 3. You need 3 COCs to enter a Class C airspace. Okay, for visibility, this is for the weather minimums there. There's also requirements for the pilot here, and I'll get into that in a second. Class C airspace, oops, you need 3 statute miles of visibility. You need 1,000 feet above, you need to be 1,000 feet above, or 500 feet below, or 2,000 feet horizontal. So let me show you what that looks like here. So here's our plane right here. It'll work. So there's our plane, there's our plane right there. Right. All right, so you have to be either, here's our cloud right here. You have to be 500 feet below or 1,000 feet above the cloud. It's 1,000 feet right there. 1,000 feet, or I think it's 2,000. Yeah, 2,000. So this is 2,000 feet horizontally near cloud. So it's so the way to remember this right here, what I do is I just, for Class C airspace, you can use a Cessna 152. Cessna 152, that's a common one. So what that, how to interpret that is you've got 1,000 feet above, that's the one right here, 1,000 feet above. You have to be 1,000 feet above the clouds there. And 500 feet below, and 2,000 feet horizontal. So again, if you want to remember numbers, like the 152, you're going to have to remember, what those numbers, where they go in that equation. Now, let me explain why they do this. You'd think that you'd want to keep the aircraft at least 1,000 feet below a cloud, but actually what they're worried about is planes taking off from wherever it's a busy airport, and they climb fast, passenger jets fly pretty fast. They climb really quick. So when they pop up out of those clouds, they want to give them extra room. If you're above the clouds, let's say, they want to make sure that you're at least 1,000 feet above the cloud layer. So when that jet pops out, you've got time to react. Okay. So that's the reason why they have that separation there again. So you've got to be 1,000 feet above, 500 feet below any cloud, and 2,000 feet horizontally from any cloud. So you can't get any close to that in Class C airspace. Okay. So we'll use that C-152 again here. So again, Class Delta airspace, 3 statute miles visibility, and again, 1,000 feet above, 500 feet below, and 2,000 feet horizontal. So it's the same 3 152s. So Class C and Class D requirements are identical. Okay. Class Echo airspace. Okay. So this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. Below 10,000 feet MSL, it's just the same 3 152s. Okay. Again, 1,000 feet above the cloud, 500 feet below, or 2,000 feet horizontal. Above 10,000 feet, because aircraft fly faster at altitude, and most of the planes that fly at 10,000 feet are going to be, probably jets, turboprops, things like that. So they're going to be clipping along a lot faster because the air is thinner up there, right? So their true airspeed is going to be a lot faster. So now they want you to have 5 statute miles of visibility, and 1,000 feet above, you want to be 1,000 feet above, 1,000 feet below any cloud. You have 1 statute mile horizontal visibility. So what I do there for that one, So D, the same. Echo. So Echo is going to be, so it's below 5,000. So let's just do below 10,000 feet. It's going to be Cessna 152. Okay. And actually, another term there is SAC 3 Cessna 152s there. So, so 3 miles of visibility. That's what that 3 stands for. Again, below 10,000 feet, 3 170 or 152s here. Above 10,000 feet, 10,000 feet, it's going to be 5 F-111s. So does everybody know what an F-111 is? Yeah, very good. Yeah, so it's a bomber, very fast moving bomber. I think it's a swimmer. I don't even know if the defense still use this. Oh, it is. Okay. Yeah. But it used to be a very fast jet bomber that the U.S. made. So think of the F-111 as a very fast moving aircraft. And here, again, visibility is 5 miles. We need the 5 miles visibility. Again, this is above in Echo airspace above 10,000 feet. 5 F-111s. So you need 1,000 feet above, 1,000 feet below, and what for horizontal?
5,000 feet is 5.
Well, it's kind of close. What's that?
Statue.
Correct. Yeah, 1 mile. Yeah, 1 mile visibility. Yep. Okay. Does everybody understand that? Is it, you get these are we're getting into the nitty gritty of the requirements that you have to have there on that. So there's not too many places really where. Yeah, I mean, it's very rarely just Echo. When they're on the mountain, I think that you can see a little more of this here. So, okay, actually in Class G airspace. So again, Class G is uncontrolled airspace. That's like the space right there we're sitting right now. It's uncontrolled. And that's because there's no radars that can sweep by here. They can't, like Madison's radar won't get past the bluffs. Volt fields. The radar might hit us. It'd be unlikely just because there are some bluffs between here and there. So they can't control it, because they can't see the planes that are coming in. So it's Class Gulf airspace. It's uncontrolled airspace. All of these up here, A, B, C, D, and E, are all controlled airspace. In other words, they can see us on their radar. Okay. The Class G is area that they can't see it, so they can't control it. They can't tell you, what turn right or left or whatever, so they can't see it on their scopes. So in this airspace, there are a couple things that we have to be aware of. So let's see here. We've got a couple differences here. So in Class G airspace, the weather requirements are for 1,200 feet or less above the surface, regardless of MSL altitude. So this is like around like an airport or something like that. During the day, you need 1 statute mile and clear of clouds. Okay, so that's just 1 Coke is all you get for that one. That's at less than 12,000 feet. Okay, you have to have 1 statute mile of flight visibility, and you have to be clear of the clouds. So you can be flying really close to the clouds, but you can't be, in the clouds or anything like that. Again, we're talking about VFR, basic VFR conditions. At night, it actually goes up back to the 3 152s, the Cessna 152s. Okay, so you have, again, 1,000 feet above, 500 feet below, and 2,000 feet below. More than 1,200 feet above the surface, but less than 10,000 feet. So there's not too many places in the U.S. that have this anymore, so it's not as critical, but you should know it. Again, more than 1,200 feet of the surface, but less than 10,000 feet. AGL, you're going to have, again, 152. Well, actually, essentially, it's the same as we have here. During the day, they're the same conditions. Where it varies is when you get into the mountains and you've got a real high altitude airport. And I think there's maybe like 2 or 3 places in the U.S. that have this condition right here, where it's more than 1,200 feet above the surface and at or above 10,000 feet. You need 5 statute miles. Again, the 5 F-111s, 12,000 feet below station horizontal. Okay. Again, you need to know that stuff because you're going to get at least 2 or 3 questions on airspace when it comes to this. They're going to ask about what are the basic weather minimums for this airspace. You need to know what those are. Right, so here's a diagram of it. Just talking about there. So there's 4 elements here. You've got the distance from vertically from the cloud above you, horizontally 2,000 feet and 1,000 feet above. And that's again the reason why they have the 1,000 feet right here is because a plane could pop up out of these clouds, and 500 feet just wouldn't be enough, so they gave it 1,000. And then minimum flight visibility, and again that's how far we can see in front of us here. That's going to be, typically it's either going to be 1 mile if you're flying within an airport or something like that, or 3 miles, which is what most of them are, 3 miles. And then at a real high altitude, you need 5 miles visibility. Right. Let's see. Yeah, that's here. Okay, so now equipment requirements and pilot requirements here. So so for Class Alpha airspace, the entry requirements are essentially what you need on board the aircraft to what you have to do on the aircraft to get into that airspace. So for Class A, you need ATC clearance. So in other words, you have to call up ATC, like Chicago Center, and request a clearance to enter Class Alpha airspace. As a private pilot, you're not going to have to worry about that because you're not going to be flying at in Class Alpha. Where does Class Alpha start? 80,000 feet. Yeah, perfect. So you need an ATC clearance, and a clearance is very specific. They will tell you you are cleared to enter this airspace. They will actually say those words: you are cleared to enter. If you don't hear the word cleared to enter or whatever, then you're not cleared to enter. Okay. So there's one exception to that rule I'm talking about in that second here. So the equipment on board, it has to be IFR equipped, so it has to have DOR, it has to have an attitude indicator, directional gyro, things like that. So you have to have the proper equipment to enter that. And again, I don't think you'll see any questions on Class Alpha airspace in there because again, it doesn't apply to private pilots. Minimum pilot certificate, you have to have an instrument rating. So you have to be an instrument rated pilot. So again, if you going for your private pilot, you're not going to be instrument rated yet. At some point, you may get your instrument rating, and then you'll try that. So for Class Bravo, okay, what is Class Bravo? Give me an example of Class Bravo airspace. Chicago, okay, good. Chicago, Atlanta, Los Angeles, those are all Class Bravo airspace. So to enter Bravo airspace, again, you need a clearance. You need to hear them say 264, you're cleared to enter Class Bravo airspace. That phrase from them, and that gives you clearance. If you don't hear that and you penetrate their airspace, they're going to either give you a warning or they're going to have you call a phone number, which is not always pleasant. So I've never had that happen to me, but it's one of those things that can happen if you're not careful about what airspace you're flying in. Okay, the equipment that you need on board, you need obviously two-way radio because you have to communicate with them. So you want to be able to talk to the controllers. You need that. You also need a Mode C transponder, transponder with altitude reporting capability. Altitude reporting, that's what we call Mode C. So the transponder, I think we talked about that last week or the week before. It's just basically a little device inside the aircraft, and you type in a number in, and then it sends out every time the radar beam from an airport hits it. It sends back that number to the facility that the radar control or the radar beam came from. That way they keep track. So you need a transponder with Mode C capability or altitude reporting. That's the same. Your pilot rating, you need to be a private pilot. However, you can be a recreational student pilot if you've had the certification on, let's see, wait a second. May operate it other than the primary airport. We have so yeah, in like you can actually fly as a student pilot. You can fly into Class Bravo airspace if you've had training in that airspace. But I think they're very restrictive. They really don't like that because it makes it hard for them. But it's hard for these flight schools sometimes to operate in some of these big cities. They've got students they want to teach and they want to get them out of their airports, so they have to work. So you have to have some sort of training essentially, and that's why they say in general the regulatory requirements on that. which essentially is a fancy way of saying that you have to have some training to fly in their airspace. As a student pilot, as a private pilot, you can fly in there if you get a clearance on there and you've got the certificate. So Class C airspace, give me an example of Class C airspace. Yep, Madison, Milwaukee. Okay, great. So to enter Madison airspace, you need two-way radio communications prior to entry. Now this is different. Most of these up here are clearances. This one just says radio communications. I'll give you a hint on what that means, the distinction between them. So if I'm flying down to Madison, I've got my plane, I'm over Lake Wisconsin, I call up Madison. Madison approach to Comanche to Yankee, like to fly to Janesville, and like to cross over your airspace. If they come back and they say, remember 8682 Yankee, they could say, cleared to enter airspace or whatever. They don't have to. If they just say November 8682 Yankee, stand by, the fact that they said my N number is enough for me to go into their airspace. If they say aircraft calling, Madison, stand by, they did not say my N number. That does not mean I can enter their airspace. I know this seems weird because you'd think, okay, they would just give you a clearance, but in this case, they have to enter their airspace. All they have to do is repeat your N number. So if it's 2641 Romeo, I say, Madison approach 2641 Romeo, landing Janesville, or over Lake Wisconsin, 3,000 feet, landing Janesville, or something like that. If they come back and say 264 Romeo, stand by, I can fly through their airspace. That's only in Class C airspace, like Madison, Milwaukee, things like that. Okay, so equipment on board obviously have to have a two-way radio. You need a transponder with altitude reporting capability, and then there's no specific pilot requirement. You can be a student pilot and fly into Madison if you want. There's, again, it's not as busy, so they let you in. Another thing that is that you have to have, they don't say it here, is you have to have an ADS-B out. Basically, it's just an automated transponder, essentially, that operates. It's actually ADS-B stands for Automated Dependent Surveillance Broadcast. It's just basically a fancy way of saying it's like a transponder, but it's automatically, sending out your GPS coordinates to anybody that's listening, including you. If you have a ADS-B receiver, if you get one, you can actually build one of these. Stratix is one you can build for less than $100, and you can actually pick up airliners flying overhead. You can actually see their number registrations and things like that. Really easy to do. Okay, Class Delta airspace. Examples of Class Delta.
Here,
This is Class B.
Lacrosse, yep. Janesville, yep. Those are our Delta airspace seaways, Class Delta on there. I think Eau Claire, I believe, is Class Delta too. So in any case, here, Class Delta, you need two-way radio communications prior to entry. So again, you have to have two-way radio. Right here, requirements, you need two-way radio. And then again, you could be a student pilot, private pilot, whatever, so you could be a student pilot and fly. As a matter of fact, if you're flying with me as my student, I'm probably going to send you to Blue Cross. The controllers there are really nice. They're used to getting a lot of student pilots, and if you let them know that you're a student pilot, they'll treat you pretty well there. So again, just two-way radio communications prior to entry, no specific pilot. Class Echo airspace. There's no entry requirements for Class Echo airspace as long as it's in VFR conditions. If it's IFR, meaning you got overcast layer and maybe it extends up 4,000 feet or whatever, you can't go through that layer and fly on top as VFR, because you're going to be in IFR conditions to get on top. So it's basically going to be IFR conditions. And again, in VFR conditions like today, this is VFR, Visual Flight Rules. That's what that stands for. If I fly up there, there's no requirements at all. I don't need any pilot requirements other than student pilot. If I'm flying solo, they have my student endorsements, things like that. Or private pilot, I can just go off there. Class G airspace, again, because there's no radars that can see Class G airspace, they can't penetrate that because the terrain and stuff like that. There's really no entry requirements. There's no equipment requirements, and again, the pilot certificate, there's no specific requirement, but you obviously have to have a student pilot certificate to fly solo. Okay. But you understand that it's a lot of stuff. I realize it's a lot of stuff, and it's if you ask pilots, they may not be able to tell you some of these things sometimes. You know, if they've been away from flying a little bit, maybe they're not going to be able to answer this. The guys that fly a lot are probably going to know most of it. The guys that fly, believe it or not, the guys that fly the corporate, because they don't fly in Class G airspace that much, they're basically on IFR flight plans all the time. They're required either by their company or insurance. They have to file IFR even if on a day like today. If I had to take a jet out today, I would have to file IFR. I was flying for other companies around here. They would say that's the way to do it, because you're probably going to climb up to Class Alpha airspace anyway. So, all right. So here's another. This is another chart that we use here. So we don't really have to go through this. This is just basically what we went through. It's just, I don't think you guys will see it on your sheet at all there, but it's just another way of laying this information out. So let's see here. Yeah, here again, this is another way of looking at the airspace. This is a flight conditions. You have the weather conditions that you can fly in. So again, there's our three Cokes there, COC Cokes, and then Class C 152s right there, and all the stuff we just went through. So, all right, let's go here. All right, space. So we've already gone through this. Do that. So, all right, so I think we've gone through almost all this stuff. I think I told you guys about this, the legend here on your sectional map. Again, start going through this and getting really comfortable with the legend, because you'll want to know what all those different symbols. And then when you look at these symbols on here, open up the map and see if you can find one of those symbols on there. Okay. Another thing you can do, this is a little tip that might be helpful for you. You can go to a site called SkyVector. That's what this is right here. It's skyvector.com. Get an account on there, and you could actually look at all of the airspace. These are down, you know, it's just basically live charts. It's kind of like Google Maps for aviation, and you can look up any areas. These are up to the up-to-date maps, and you can look at various areas. I can zoom into Wisconsin, for instance. We're going to stay in this area because that's the area. But it just makes it a lot easier, scrolling around as opposed to using a map. Realistically, and after you get your private pilot's license, you probably won't use a printed map anymore. It's not a bad idea to have on board the aircraft, but what a lot of pilots do is they'll have a smartphone app, and then they'll also have like a tablet app, an iPhone or something like that. They can view these maps on those devices. If one of those devices fails, they still have a backup there. I would never fly a long cross country anyway with nothing less than 2 different devices that have maps on, just to be on the safe side. And I haven't bought a sectional in probably 15 years. But because you're student pilots, you have to know how to use these things here. So, all right, right here. All right, so again, we're going to learn how to use this and how to plan out a flight here. This is a chart, an example of a chart supplement entry for an airport. You're not going to see this. They actually have it before. They don't. Okay. Yep. So the reason why I have this, I'm showing you this image right here, is because this is in this book. So the book the testing supplement that they hand you at the test is going to have this image right here in it. And the great part about this is you can get an idea of where all these things are. So here you can see various pieces of information here. There's the UTC time, center name. I think there's a couple other things here. Get comfortable knowing where all of these, what each of these things means here. So, and I won't get into details of it because it's going to take us too long to go through all this. The main things you need to know is there's a communication section. There's a description of the airport. Like this, obviously you can tell that probably means runway 1836. I can't read very well there. But that's runway 1836, and it describes the length and width of the runway, and it's asphalt, the condition of it, things like that. Then it's got communications. Here it's got tower frequencies, names and things like that. The CTF frequency, the ATIS frequency, all that stuff is going to be in there. So this is known as the chart supplement, and it's essentially you can get these books that have all of the airports. Reedsburg has one of these entries in it. It's got a page just for Reedsburg, and you can see here's the airport diagram right here. It shows what buildings there, where maybe the FBOs are, or hangars are, or something like that. Just enough to give you an idea of the layout of it. It'll have taxiways on there. Most of the time, they'll have details about taxiways, how they're labeled, things like that. Then various other pieces of information. That's called the chart supplement. It's details about the airport, all the other things that you can't fit into a sectional. You can't show all of this stuff in the sectional, so they have these chart supplements. Okay. It's known as a chart supplement. This is a sectional chart excerpt, which again we just got through using this sectional chart right here. There's also what's called a WAC chart, wide area chart, which is they're much larger and they don't have as much detail. So sectionals are usually what most pilots would use. Again, nowadays you're probably just going to use your smartphone for it. But they're all going to have the same types of features. Again, they're going to represent airports the same way. You can see there's an airport there. This little line right there shows the runway, the length of it, things like that. Let's see here. So now we go on to the chapter on aviation. Here. And we've already gone through most of this stuff. I don't know that we have to get into it. So yeah, sectional charts is what we've been dealing with lately. And then the WAC charts, that actually stands for World Aeronautical Chart. Again, not used as much, but they're nice if you're doing a long cross-country flight. Instead of like, if you look at the sectional charts on here, there's probably like maybe 50 of those. I don't know how many the number is, but there's 50 little squares there. For WACs, there's maybe only like 12 or something like that, or 10 WAC charts for the entire United States. So they cover a lot more area, and they're great for planning. But again, they don't show you a lot of details there. And again, I really don't think many people are actually using it. Do you guys want to take a break at all? Is it break? Good. Move it on. Keep going. Okay, good. All right. Let's see here. So, okay, a couple things to draw your attention to. On the sectional charts, you're going to see these black, thin lines. There's vertical lines like this right here. And you can actually open your charts up if you want to actually see it. See if you can find them. So open up to the north. So again, I turn it so the north is facing up here. Open it up here, and I should see Seattle on that. There we go. All right. You can just we'll work on the south side of Seattle Airport, or the Airspace there in Seattle. So once you open it, look for these vertical lines. Okay, so you guys, do you see those thin black vertical lines there? Okay, so there's also thin horizontal lines. You see those? Yeah. Okay, so those are lines of latitude, lines of longitude. The vertical ones, the ones that stretch north and south, are lines of longitude, and the black lines are lines of latitude. We need that to figure out where, if we want to go someplace, we need that information to know how to plot our flight plan or our path out there. So, so that's a very common, that's something we'll get into here in a minute. There's also another line here, and actually, it'd be easier to show you on the sectional, or on the map here. There are these dashed magenta lines right here. I don't know if you can see that in your chart, maybe a little different. These very. Do you see it? Okay. So it's if you look along that line, you're going to see actually at the very top. If you follow that line all the way up to the top of your chart, add a number on it. 15 degrees and 30 seconds east. Yep. So you should see it. It actually has it on the line as well. If you look at it really carefully, there's another, and I think on your section you can actually see this right here. 15 degrees and 30 degrees east. That's a magnetic variance line. And we'll get into that when we actually do a bit of flight planning here in a second. I wanted to point that out because you're going to see those. There's another one to the west of Seattle as well. If you look at this one over here, this one says 16 degrees east. You see that there? It's much further over to the east of, there's Seattle right there. So over there again, it's a magenta line that stretches over there. And that's a variance, we call magnetic variance line. So, and that's used for flight planning purposes. Okay. Does everybody understand latitude and longitude lines? Longitude are vertical, latitudes are horizontal. So let me show you one other thing about latitude and longitude lines. You can actually tell the number of or where you're at. But it's like here. Yeah, here we go. So this number right here, see this 48. This is northwest of Seattle. Actually, if you just go directly north of Seattle, there you'll see a black. It's kind of hard to read here, but it says 48 degrees right there. So that's the latitude line that's above this right here. So that is this latitude line right here that stretches all the way over here. That's the 48 degree latitude line right there. And if we go down a little bit further, we can see there is another line right down here. If we keep following down, they're spaced evenly because there's lines of latitude. Go down a little bit further, and we're going to see 47 degrees latitude. This is below Seattle. Okay, so it stands to reason. Okay, we're going south, so the latitude line should increase or decrease. Decrease. It should decrease, yeah, because we're getting closer to the equator. So we just keep going down, and it's going to get smaller and smaller. So if you go down here, there's 46 degrees. North latitude is what we would say it. For longitude, again, those are the vertical lines. And here, again, this is north of Seattle right here. You can see the longitude right there. That's 122 degrees. That would be west longitude, or minus 122 degrees longitude. And that's referenced from Greenwich. Greenwich is where the prime meridian is in London there. So we're just outside of London. So it's so we've got going. So like right here, we're about 89 degrees west latitude or longitude. Sorry, and about 43, I think, latitude. And also the other way of thinking of it is we're negative longitude because we're this side of Greenwich in the prime meridian. So it's negative. And on the other side of London or Greenwich is positive numbers. They go stretch all the way around the Earth to 180 degrees. Does that make sense? This is really important because we need to understand this because we need to be able to plot out a course, and we have to figure out what the where our direction is going to get to a location or something like that. All right. All right. So you should be able to find your latitude, longitude lines. Which, if you can't find something, again, just like I say, like this one right here, if I look at this whole line right here doesn't have any number on it. Right here, I can go through this, and there's no number on this black line right here at all. But if I go to the left and look for that same line, now I can see that there's a longitude. This one says 122. If I go to the right of this line right here, it says 121. So I know that this is 121 and a half because it's going up in longitudes here, or yeah, longitudes. And same with latitudes. So they basically can give you like 50% of the full latitude here. So this is 47. I go up to the next one. I'm not going to find a number on this line. That's because it's only halfway to 48-degree latitude on there. So again, keep that in mind if you can't find the number. Just verifying that'll be one of the things that gets you. Now you'll have questions on the test. They'll say, what is the airport or what is the airspace at 47 west latitude and 30, let's say 47 degrees, 30 minutes west longitude, and a latitude of, or longitude of 122. So we would actually go up. Do you guys know how the coordinate system works? That kind of. So so degrees. There's 60 degrees in between every latitude and longitude, and there's a halfway point is like this 30 minutes. All right, so a full 60 minutes is going to give you a full degree. So from here, this is 47. 30 minutes. If you count this, you're going to count 30 different markers right here. And that represents the minutes between 47 and 47 degrees and 30 minutes here. A full 60 is going to take you right up to the next latitude in this case. It's the same way with longitude. So if this right here is 121, if I add 60 minutes to this, it'll take me to the next longitude, right? So 30 minutes is halfway between that. So on the FAA test, they're going to say, what's the airport at 47 degrees west, or north latitude, sorry. Say 47 degrees and 30 minutes north latitude, and let's say 122, whatever that is. 122 west longitude. And you could say, okay, well, there's the closest airport is probably going to be this one right here, or it's a, this indicates a lighter, big lighter. So you need to be able to navigate the maps because you're going to see questions like that on the test. All right. All right. So we talked a little bit about magnetic variation when we were talking about compasses. Do you guys remember that? Yeah. So, and because of the way the Earth is lined up, let's see if I got an image there. So, the lines of longitude and latitude are based on true north and true south. So the true north pole is right here. The magnetic north pole is somewhere in this area, and it changes every single day. It's very small, but it's constantly moving, and it can shift quite a bit. And because of that, that's what makes our flying more difficult. It would have been great if the Earth would have cooperated with us, and it would have set up the magnetic north pole right at the true north pole. But because the magnetic north pole is constantly shifting, and it's somewhere in this area, we have to do these conversions to get from true north, or from true north to magnetic. In the aircraft, all we have is a compass. Of course, if you have GPS, then that all goes with it. It's a lot easier. But as a student, you're going to have to learn how to fly with just a compass on there. So again, latitude, lines of latitude, longitude are based on true north and true south, true north pole and true south pole. You need to understand that. Time zones we don't need to go into. You guys understand the UTC time? We talked about that Zulu time. 5 hours behind. Yep. So if it's right now in London, if it's noon, it would be like 7 o'clock. Let's see. Bearing. So yeah, So yeah, a couple terms you're going to hear, and you already know this, but it's worth mentioning again here. So there is, so an aircraft has a heading. You may have a heading of, due south, for instance, but your course line could be something different. You could actually be flying in totally different. If you measure it over the ground, I'll show you everyone. So let's say we've got a real strong wind right coming from this direction right here. Here's point B, that's where we want to get to. Here's point A right here. Okay, and the plane we want to get our plane from here to here. But if I just point my plane in this direction right here, it's going to slowly veer off course if I just point it in that direction, because the wind is blowing. If you get 10, it doesn't make a difference how many knots of wind, but even a small amount of wind is going to blow you off your target. So what you have to do with the aircraft is you just have to turn it in like a canoe, turn it into the wind there, and then just follow the course. Now, one thing that people get confused on about this, they think this is like a crab. You're actually crabbing the aircraft into it, like holding the rudder to get that. You're not. You're just basically pointing the aircraft. A better way to do this would be just to walk it out. So I want to get to that window right there, let's say, and I've got a strong wind coming from this side. If I just point at that window as I'm walking, it's going to blow me off course. I'm going to keep, get pushed over. If I walk like this, of course, if I'm on the ground, there's a lot of friction there. I should be able to do it, but let's say if I'm an aircraft here and I'm flying along, as I fly over here, I would have to point my nose of my aircraft in that direction and then fly like this. That would offset that wind that's blowing in this direction. It's blowing us off course. Okay. So that's your heading. Okay, that's the heading of the aircraft. Think of it as the heading. The course is the course right to that. So in this case, it would be, that's north right there. My course is probably going to be 360 degrees. I want to fly north to get to it. But my heading might be like 30 degrees if it's a really strong wind. Okay, that's an important concept to understand, because we're going to be doing a lot of math, going back and forth between these things there. Okay, let's see here. Anybody remember what deviation is? Magnetic deviation.
It's when the compass will be like off by a certain degrees.
Yeah, it's deviation. So variance has to do with the Earth's problems with the magnetic field. The Earth, having a magnetic north constantly changing right here. It's somewhere in that area, but again, the magnetic north pole is constantly shifting. That's variance. Okay. A lot of people get these two confused. Deviation, however, is something that's built into the aircraft. Okay, so an aircraft has obviously metal in it and stuff like that, and so it's going to cause that compass to swing a little bit. It's not going to. The compass is not going to be reading the exact, true magnetic heading or magnetic course, or whatever it is. That's because, again, there are little things inside the aircraft that cause the compass to shift a little bit. So that's deviation. Okay, there's a compass deviation card in the aircraft. I think they've got a picture here. What I saw here. Oh, here's a good example. This right here is a good image of true north, magnetic north there. So true north, there's quite a bit of difference. Again, that magnetic north is constantly shifting. It's every year the lines are shifting a little bit there. Yeah, okay, 612, it should be up here. There it is. You'll see these types of cards. They're really small. They're attached to the compass. There's like a little card on it. And if you want to steer, let's say north, in this case, there's no deviation at all here for it. It's just, you just steer it to 0 degrees, which is north. But if you want to go 30 degrees, let's say, then they want you to steer on your compass to 28. Again, that's because the internal air is it's kind of built into every aircraft. It's called swinging the aircraft or swinging the compass when they correct the aircraft and try to figure out what these numbers are. And again, every aircraft has its own unique characteristics, and so it's going to have different numbers for various headings there. So this is a heading of 30 degrees, but because there's issues with the compass in that aircraft, you have to, instead of steering for 30 degrees, you steer for 28 degrees. They're minor, usually very small changes there, but over a long course, if you were to use GPS and use just a compass, you'd want to be right on the money when it comes to steering with the degrees, or you want to use what's on the compass card. Again, with GPS, we don't have to worry about it so much anymore. You as a student pilot have to know it. So again, that's magnetic deviation there. Okay. All right. So. All right. So as far as basic, we'll just grab some of that. Good luck. So now the other thing we've got to learn, spend a little bit of time on, is understanding how winds affect the travel. So this is what I was just describing to you. This is what we call actually the wind triangle right here. So you've got a heading you want to fly, a course you want to get to. But because there's wind coming out of, let's say, the north in this case, if you just keep your heading in this point in this direction, it's just going to blow the aircraft off course. And 20 knots over 1 hour, 20 knots. Anybody know how much distance this would be right here off this main area? This is our target. This is let's say this is our point B. This is point A. We fly for 1 hour. How many miles? Actually, maybe even say we're flying at 60 knots. Here. So it'd be about 20 nautical miles. So it's again, you're traveling at 60 knots for 1 hour. It's going to be 20 nautical miles. The distance that you'd be off from the target. Well, actually, and heading, that's what our nose is pointed. And the track is actually what we actually fly over the ground. So when you think of track, think of what's on the ground. And that's, you're drawing that line on the ground on your aircraft pointing this direction. It's heading right here. You've got the wind that's blowing you, and it's blowing you over this track right here. Again, notice our heading is still pointing here. This is also known as the drift angle right here. So again, here's our heading. It's, in this case, it's pointed up, so we're assuming this is 360 degrees, 0 degrees. 360 is how we actually say it in the for ATC 360. Our heading is 360 degrees because the wind is blowing us this direction right here. Our track is going to be over here. Let me show that here today. But yeah, the wind is, I can tell because our track right here, there's the wind is coming from this direction right here. It's blowing over this way. And this right here, again, is our drift angle. So this is the wind triangle. This is essentially what we kind of learned this from the E6B. Let's see here. This kind of describes what we do to correct for wind. So we've got wind coming up out of the north in this case. We want to get to this location over here. And to fix that, we point the aircraft into the wind a little bit, and we just fly it like this. You notice the heading on this one is basically pointing up like this, which basically is that wind direction angle for the aircraft. And that's going to allow the aircraft to fly basically in a straight track to its destination. So you're not going to be doing kind of a loop around to get to it because of being blown off course. What happens in real life is if you just point the plane to like your destination and get a wind, let's say out of the north here, what's going to happen is you're going to get blown off course, and then you're going to have to turn back north to get up to your airport. So you're wasting fuel. Whereas with this, by pointing the aircraft in a different heading, you're counteracting that wind and you're flying it. So what we have to do is we've got to figure out what should be our heading to get to our destination. We've got a strong wind. We know what our track is, because we draw it on a map, and we'll do that in a second here. We'll actually draw it on the map and then go from here to here, right? And then, but what we have to do, we've got to figure out how many degrees off our track, our course, is what would be our heading, so we can counteract the winds. So there's a couple things we need to know for that. Anybody want to guess what they are to figure that out? Yep, wind velocity, that's one. What else? Speed. Airspeed of the aircraft. Yeah. Yes, yeah, that would be true. The wind direction. Yeah, so you need to know what direction the wind is out of to be able to figure out what the direction is. So, so what we're going to do is we're going to actually figure it out on our E6Bs. All right, so you want to grab your E6B, and I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to hand everybody a pencil here. So you've got it's right here. What do you got, pencil? Try not to use a pen on these E6Bs because they won't. Pens obviously will mark up the E6B. You won't be able to get that off there easily. Oh yeah, sorry. Okay. So we're going to to this side of the E6B. Okay, this is called the wind side. Right. This right here that's where we do all our calculations. We're not going to use that right now. We're going to use the wind side of it right here. Okay. All right. So let me switch over to. All right, so you should have something that kind of looks like this. Now take a look at, you can actually slide this out of your E6B, just take it right off of there. There's two sides to this. Most of the E6Bs, you're going to have on one side from 0 to like 260. And on the other side, and again, I'm looking at these numbers right here, they go up and down right there. It'd be like 0 to 260. And then the other side, you're going to see from like 150 to 650, something like that. Your numbers may vary a little bit, but there should be one side that has lower numbers. You want to slide the one that has lower numbers so that it shows up through the window on the wind side. Okay. Yeah. All right. So here you can see there's the down here as well as the low numbers right here. We've got our high numbers. All right, so this, you can obviously see this little window slides up and down. Okay, there's also a wheel that turns around right here. So you can see here, I can turn that wheel. Go ahead and try turning that wheel on yours there. Okay, so I'll give you a hint that's going to save you a ton of time. The instructions for doing wind computations are actually right on the E6B. Right there. If you turn, if it's not on that one side that you're on, turn to the other side. But you should see something like this, a little black heading there, and it's got instructions on how to use this for calculating the wind direction. So this right here is the brunt of navigation. What we call dead reckoning. We're going to use this to plot our course accurately with magnetic variance and do all of that right through here. So, all right. So what you want to do, this center, there's like a little hole in the center right there. That's called the grommet. Okay. You see this right here? It's called the grommet. On some of your E6Bs, it is going to be literally a grommet, a little metal circle. Okay. Not all E6Bs have that, but a lot of the older ones, they still have that there. So what we're going to do is, let's take a look at the instructions here. So set with, let's actually do a problem. So let's say we want to see. There's something. I don't see it like cloth over there. It's like that. Let me just take a quick second here and see if I can find a cloth for that. That should be around. Oh, perfect. Yeah, thank you. It's much easier this way here. Right. All right. We'll do a simple problem first, just so you can kind of see how to use them. They work, I mean, it works the same way, even if it's a complex problem. We'll do something simple. So we want to fly from A, right here, point A, to point B. And let's keep it simple. North is this way, west, east, south. All right. And we've got a 10 knot wind here from the north. Okay. So it's actually 10 knots from 360 degrees. Okay. And our course is, good job of that, but it's 90 degrees. That's our course line. 90 degrees. All right, so what we have to do is figure out what our heading should be for the aircraft, what our true heading, basically what a compass should be reading. We fly from here to here. It doesn't really make a difference how far it is. We're just going to assume that the wind is constant throughout that whole trip there, okay? All right, so to solve that, again, it's really simple if you take it step at a time. So they actually have them numbered right here. If you look at this really carefully, it says 1, set wind direction under true index. So your true index is right here. So what does it say there? Set wind direction under the true index. What is our wind direction? North. Okay, so what can we set under the true index? North, yeah, 360 degrees, right? So here I'll see it. So we just rotate our wheel so that our wind is under the true index. See everybody do that? Again, that's the top one. Set wind direction under true index. We've done that. Mark wind velocity up from the center point. So the center point is that right there. We have to mark it up. We have to put a mark on our this little window right here of 10 knots above that thing. It doesn't make a difference. We could slide this wheel up and down anywhere. We could put it anywhere on here. It doesn't make a difference. I normally, what I do is when I mark the wind direction, I just put it right over 100, just so I've got a line of reference there. So slide that over 100, the grommet, that center point. So they call it center point. I don't know what to call it grommet, but and mark wind velocity up from center point. So the wind velocity is what? 10 knots. 10 knots. All right. So what you want to do here is put a little mark here, right there at 10 knots. So there's 100 right there. There's 110. So we're just going to put in a little mark. I didn't do a good job there, but yeah, so what I normally do is I put an X there, right over the 100 there. And you may have to go over it a couple times. On mine, I've got like a little, it's hard to see here, but there's a little X that I put right on my mark there. Again, that's just, we're marking 10 knots up from the center. Okay. Has everybody done that? Okay. The next step, set true course under true index. So we've calculated our true course and it's 90 degrees. Okay. So what do we need to do next?
To east.
Yep, turn it to east. So turn the under the true index, we put 090. That's our true course, which we figured out earlier. Okay. All right. We've done that. That's step 3. Step 4, slide wind velocity mark. That's this little mark that we made earlier. Right here. We want to slide the wind velocity mark up to the true airspeed of the aircraft. So let's say our aircraft is flying at 120 knots, right? So here's our plane, and we're going 120 knots. Okay. So what we're going to do is take that mark right there and slide it up to the 120 knot mark, which is right here. So that was this one here. Down to 20 knots. Right. So now we actually have everything. We've done almost everything we need to do there. This gives us a lot of information. Because the mark is on this side of the chart right here. That means we're going to have left correction. So we're going to be turning our aircraft. We're going to turn the heading of our aircraft to the left. Okay, when we actually fly. If this mark was on this side, that means our aircraft would be pointed to the right, the force line, true course there, right? But in this case, it's pointed to the left. So what we're going to do here, let's slide this up here to 120 knots there. Okay, and I didn't do a good job with these things right here. You guys probably do better. Since I came up on my E6B. Well, what are some numbers you guys came up with as far as the what's under the grommet itself?
So I figured it's
What? Yes, yeah. What's the airspeed though of the aircraft? So let's say we set the true course under the true index, slide the wind velocity mark. We've done that. Read the ground speed under the center. That again, that's that dot right there. So what is everybody coming up with the ground speed? Anybody else have any? So you should read it under the grommet, under that center point. So here again, I didn't do a really good job of this here. So this actually should be right there. This center right there. If I could zoom in on it. If I did it right, it should be about 116 knots. Is that what you guys are getting? Let me show you what I've got on mine. I'll just show you the E6B that I got here. I'll just show it to the people at home. That's what I got on mine right there. Okay, so you see that right there. So the grommet is below that little mark. I'll show what you have there. So we'll do another one here. So yeah, you guys are kind of close there. It's in the adult part there. So yeah, and actually it looks like everybody's getting the same one. Make sure I'm doing it right. So let's back up a second. Let's do this again. Make sure that I did everything correctly here. So we'll start at the top again. So place the wind direction under the true index. So the wind direction is going to be north. So let's do it on here. So our wind direction is right there. Here we go. Right, so our wind direction is out of the north, so we slide north under or 360 degrees under the true index. Let's all do that together here to make sure we get this. We all do it the same way. And by the way, you can erase those. Just erase your existing check little X that you have on there. Okay? Right. And then so the next step, mark wind velocity up from center point. That's the grommet. Again, so what I normally do is I just move that center point exactly right at the intersection of 100 there or 110. Doesn't make a difference. All you're doing is you're marking your wind velocity up from that point. So in this case, let's put that dot right at that intersection right there. So that's roughly 10 knots right there. So you should all, if you actually slide that grommet to 100, for instance, your X should be over 110. Okay. Okay. The next step, set true course under true index. So our true course is 090 degrees. Yep, so it's east. So rotate that over. I think I was off a little bit on mine. That's why it looks like everybody did theirs correctly, from what I can tell there. And then we slide this. Let's see, so the true course, we slide it over that. And then we set our true airspeed is, let's see, slide wind velocity mark to true airspeed. Again, that's true airspeed of the aircraft here. Slide that up there like that. And I think this is what everybody was getting. Is that correct? Getting something close to this. That's what I saw on most of them. So I think I was off when I calculated. That's the one drawback with these things. I mean, it's easy to make minor corrections. Like mine was just off a little bit, but it can impact the accuracy of your calculations if you're not careful. I wasn't careful. I did. So this time is a little bit better here. So this is what you should see, something like that. And that's after we slide the wind velocity and arc up to the true airspeed line. So the true airspeed line is 120. You can see this arc right here, 120. The ground speed reads under the center. So in this case, it's still 120. Now watch what happens if we actually, let's say our wind is out of, let's say it's out of, instead of out of the north, it's out of 40 degrees, 040 at 10 knots. So we can actually solve for this with the E6B very simply. So we still have 10 knots there, okay? So let's do this again. Let's actually do it at 40 degrees. We'll start from the very top. We go right here. So again, we still are flying the same destination, but our winds are different now. So again, slide the wind direction under the true index. Our wind is actually, in this case, it's 40 degrees, 040. So under the true index, we're starting at the very top again. So set the wind direction under the true index right there at 40 degrees. So you should set yours. Set our mark wind velocity up from the center point. Again, I'm just going to slide our center point down to 100, so it's easy to do. Again, I can be anywhere. We just need to mark up 10 knots up there. So you should be, it should be up to 10 knots there. Okay, so everybody done that? Okay, and then set true course under true index. So our true course is what? East or 090. Get in the habit of using numbers if you can. East, northeast, southwest. We try not to use that, especially when you're talking to ATC. They're just going to give you headings in terms of numbers, things like that. Okay. Right? So this is what we should have after we set our true course under our true index. Slide the wind velocity mark up to the true airspeed. So the wind velocity mark, not the center point, but the wind velocity mark is that little mark that we just made up there with our pencil. So we want to slide that up to our true airspeed. So I move this up to our true airspeed right here. And it's that little mark that we made should be on the 120 knot line. So your E6B should look something similar to this after you slide that the velocity mark up to true airspeed. So now our ground speed is going to read different. Instead of 120 knots, we're going to be, what is everybody reading on there? It's just curious. Give me some numbers. 112. What else you got? Anything else? Everybody's about 112. Yeah. Okay. Let's think about this. Let's use a dose of common sense here. So it makes sense, right? So the plane is flying in this direction. We've got the wind coming out of this way. Of course, it's going to push us back. It's going to slow us down. So our ground speed is going to be slow. So again, every time you use the E6B, think about, and just using a dose of common sense, does this make sense? You know, if the wind was coming out of this way and we had a ground speed of 130 knots when our aircraft is only flying 120 knots, that doesn't make sense, right? So you can save yourself a lot when you take the test. Make sure you just use basic common sense. If you've got a headwind, you're definitely going to have a slower airspeed on the ground than you would have the air. if there was snow, that is. So in this case, yeah, the wind is over this way. And it also makes sense that the aircraft would not be pointing at 120 degrees, right? Why, if for the aircraft to get from here to here, and the wind's out of that direction there, it wouldn't make sense for the aircraft to be pointing at 120 degrees. It would make sense for it to be pointing somewhere up in that toward the wind there, because the wind is negative. There's basically two vectors here. There's a vector that's pushing the aircraft this way, and there's also a vector that's pushing it back, that headwind vector right there. So it makes sense the aircraft would be pointing up into that wind. So that's the left turn. Does that kind of make sense? And again, just a dose of common sense. All right. Yeah, you guys, I tell you what, I know it's Memorial Weekend next weekend. So are you guys all busy next weekend? So we can finish up next week. What's that? Yeah. So I'll post the video on it. I don't think we're going to finish today. I was hoping we'd get through it, but honestly, we had a lot of stuff to cover in this. And I just, as much as I would love to get it all done today, I would rather you guys get a good understanding of it. So, does everybody understand the E6B, how that works? At least the women's side of it. Yeah. Here's what I want you to do for homework. Work out a couple problems. You can actually, the books that come with your E6B, it's either going to be this one or it's going to be this one, this right here. Go through these books. These are really well written, and they're designed to help you understand how to use it. So, use the examples, and they actually follow their examples. We'll get into the other side, the flight calculations computer, but I want you to read that next week. Have a good understanding of that. And next week we'll definitely finish up. We're going to do some flight planning next week. So we're going to actually plan out a flight. I'll try to get you the information before we actually have the class there, so you can kind of plan ahead of time. Definitely bring your sectionals. If you don't have a sectional, people at home that don't have a sectional, get a hold of me. I'll make sure you get a Seattle sectional that we're using for the navigation part of it. And next week should be pretty light. We're just going to do we're going to basically put everything together. We're going to, plan out a flight. We're going to look at the weather. We'll actually look at real weather conditions. We'll plan out a flight, and then from there, we'll. I think we do aeromedical, and that's the last chapter. Aeromedical is really light too. There's really not a whole lot to discuss in there. Just basically talk about eyesight and cost production. So, any questions on the stuff that you covered today? We've been through a lot of stuff. Plenty there. I'll take your pencils back. I'm gonna keep those here, guys, just because.
So it'll be posted up on a video.
What's that?
If we're not here.
Yeah, it'll be on a video. Yeah. So the other thing is, so if you can't make it next week, and I know you got plenty of stuff to do. So what we'll do after we're done with the class, I need to start meeting with you guys so we can get you signed off for your student pilot certificate and get you set up. And then the next step is, prepping to take your test. Make sure you go to that Sporties, that quiz site there, and do the practice test before you actually take the test. Now, you need to see me to actually take the test. I got to sign you off for it, and I can probably do it next week, but it's probably best that we meet sometime. I can meet you at the SIA office, and we can kind of go through what best next steps that we're going to have for it. So I'll try to make the simulators available some Saturdays or something like that. Over the summer months, I'm going to be at the office, so you guys can come in during the week if you've got some time. I know you guys are probably all working, but if you do have some time, you can get a hold of me. And then the other thing too is I'm going to fly you guys. I'm going to take you all off in the Cessna 150 or the Twin Comanche. So and get you some flight time. I've got a bunch of flights I've got planned. I just have to get some things cleaned up on the twins. So I can see the flight. So in any case, any other questions? All right, you guys can go. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, thank you.
Operating.
This is gonna be one of those summer.
You've got working too now?
No, but I've got workout stuff and trying to really go hard on the flight stuff.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's,
Plus Thursday.
you won't regret it. It's a lot of fun. That's for sure. Just, I wish I had more time. It's gonna be a bit weird. So busy with other stuff here.
I'm not sure about me at school.